I'm calling Phil Twyford, 5 minutes.
I want to make 2 points. The first is that elected health and safety representatives are not some kind of optional, nice to have. They're a vital part of an effective health and safety system. And to see why, we need look no further than the Pike River mine disaster. The Pike River coal story is a story of a company through incompetence and the venal pursuit of profit and its own survival put its employees at catastrophic risk. Because, Mr. Speaker, a hopeless, woeful health and safety system allowed them to do that. Pike River Coal were a bunch of cowboys more interested in glossing up their prospectus for investors than running a safe and efficient coal mine. And as Rebecca McPhee wrote, the company posed as an exemplar of modern health and safety management when in reality it was skating at the edge of catastrophe. And the failings of the company are now well documented. There were numerous warnings about high methane coal and the difficult geology of the site that the company routinely ignored over 2 decades. They did indeed. The mine had no way for the miners to get out other than the way they'd come in. The only emergency exit was a ventilation shaft with a ladder, almost unusable even for strong men and worse than useless in disaster conditions. The main ventilation fan was underground where it could not be reached when things went wrong. Fixed methane sensors in the mine were not maintained and left not working. There were inadequate methane draining systems. Numerous reports are documented of reports of excess methane were routinely ignored. The company had an anti-union culture and any dissenting voices were bullied into silence and in some cases driven out of the company. If ever there was an illustration of why strong, independent worker representation on health and safety is needed to provide a check on the worst, most unscrupulous employers, Pike River is it. But the behaviour and the qualities shown by the management of Pike River Coal are not unique. They're not confined solely to mining. They exist wherever bad employers are found. And the second point I want to make is that workers in small businesses deserve just as much protection at work as anybody else. Carving out those who work for businesses with fewer than 20 workers will deny more than 300,000 New Zealanders the protection at work that they deserve. Mr. Speaker, Sharonpreet Singh Dhaliwal was 22 when he died. It was his first night on the job. He was a security guard on a construction site in Henderson in my electorate in November 2013. He was bashed to death with a lump of wood after he disturbed 4 thugs who entered the construction site. And the small fly-by-night security firm that sent Sharonpreet to his death had given him no training and no equipment. He got a 20-minute induction from another young worker who himself had only had 1 night's experience on the job. Sharonpreet was sent alone to a construction site in the middle of the night. He was left unchecked until 4 in the morning. C&E Security, his employer, was charged with health and safety breaches, but they were found not guilty, and the company was dissolved shortly afterwards. Sharonpreet's killers got off scot-free, and our criminal justice system does that sometimes. But the fact that the company that employed him and sent him to his death was found not guilty of breaching health and safety laws is a worse indictment of the current system. Companies like C&E Security will very likely be exempt from the requirement to allow the election of health and safety representatives under this bill. It is a travesty. And as my colleagues have pointed out, the National Party, in the face of fear-mongering and lobbying by a small minority of ratbag employers, have given in to the worst instincts that we see at work in workplaces around New Zealand and watered down what should be a decent and effective piece of legislation. And as the Pike River families have said, Mr. Speaker, the watering down of this bill will cost lives. and New Zealand deserves better.